Let's talk about audio, specifically microphones. Now, if you remember, I was telling you that story about how I first started doing business vlogging, and in the conference room, I just hooked up my tripod with an iPhone and started recording, and it sounded like absolute garbage. Of course it did, because audio is one of the most important and one of the most easy to resolve issues you can have when you're doing business vlogging. Now, it's never an issue when you're watching TV, and all of these videos and commercials and movies have been created with amazing equipment. But when we're trying to keep things very simple, it's still an important step to get beyond the built-in microphone so that we don't have that distraction of poor audio quality. The easiest way to do that is going to be with some sort of an external microphone, and every one that I'm going to review for you today is created by a company called Rode. All right? They are kind of known as a leader. This is not the most expensive stuff you're going to find out there, but it is high quality. It's legitimate stuff. And in fact, a lot of professional YouTubers use this kind of stuff from Rode. So I'm going to show you a few different options today, starting with the very first microphone that I got to use with my iPhone. So what we have here is called a directional or shotgun mic. All right. And in fact, if I take the plug out, you see it's about the size, just slightly larger than like a AA battery. So it's super compact. And then to actually get this to attach to our smartphone, we're going to use this little contraption. Now, I should mention that Rode actually makes one that plugs directly into the lightning port on the bottom of iPhones. So that one's kind of handy, but I had one of those in the past, and I noticed that anytime you got the slightest bump on your phone, it created a bumping sound on the audio. That's such a big no-no. I can't believe that they even put a product like that out there, but I ended up trading it in and getting this one, which happens to be a little bit more versatile because it's not just restricted to the iPhone. You can use this with any device, including a DSLR camera if you want to. Now, I'm going to pop it into this, and if you're not familiar with this little contraption, it's actually really cool. This is a very standard thing for a microphone, and what it does is acts like a little shock absorber. So no matter what you do, like to your tripod or to your phone, this absorbs it so that you don't get that vibration sound or bumping sound on your actual audio. Now, this has a plug in the back, and then you've got one of these wires. There are two different ones, one that has two black ends and one that has one black and one gray. And the difference is one of those has two black stripes and the other has three black stripes. Three black stripes is kind of the iPhone thing because you've got microphone and audio, the headset piece, built into one. So that's a little bit different, but that's why we're going to put the black one in the back of the microphone. And then this would technically go into our iPhone, but anybody knows if you have an iPhone that they no longer have a microphone or headset jack. And that is why we have adapters. And I've got one handy right over here. So these actually come with iPhones still, I think. And then you would plug this right into there. And then this piece goes right into the lightning port on the bottom of your phone. So certainly a lot more stuff kind of dangling out there than the version of this microphone that comes with the lightning port built in. But I think it's kind of a no-brainer considering you don't have that audio issue that I was talking about and you have the added versatility. Now, as you can see on the bottom of this little cage, that's where we've got our shoe mount. So as I was talking about before, if we take one of our tripods that has our contraption to hold the phone, we want to make sure that we've got one that has that cold shoe mount. And then this would just slide right in there. And then this piece actually screws down to tighten it in place so it doesn't fall out. Now you'll notice that it wobbles quite a bit here. And one little trick that actually a lot of professionals still don't know, but I found on one of the YouTube videos, is that these notches that are up here are actually made so that you can push that wire into there, and then that actually holds it very steady. Anytime you do any kind of audio outside, you're going to want to make sure that you use what's called a dead cat or something very similar. So this is called a dead cat, and you can tell why for obvious reasons. So this one just pops right on here, kind of locks into place. And the only downside to it, other than looking a little bit funky, is that you've got to be careful about the footage that you've got. It's pretty easy for some of these fuzzy things to hang down in front of the lens on your camera. So you want to make sure that you've got it out of the way. A couple of options that you have available. Number one, you can actually use scissors to kind of trim some out of the way. So if anything is hanging down, you can get rid of it and it's not going to make a big difference. The other thing that I like to do is just make sure that I've got this pointed up just enough where it's not going to be in front of the camera. Now, don't want to do it so much that it's not going to be pointing at the subject because that defeats the purpose of the microphone, but to have it be maybe slightly above horizontal, like so, can really help keep it out of the way of the lens. All right, one of the great things about this microphone is it's directional. So anything you're going to point it at is what it's going to pick up the most. You still get some surrounding audio with these, but in terms of being able to isolate, this is the best thing that you can get when you want to have it attached to your camera. And that's kind of an important distinction because some of the other options that I'm going to show you are really more tied to the subject than to the camera. You'll lose a little bit in versatility. So let me show you the second microphone setup I got. This is called a lav mic. So it's just a clip-on microphone, and we've seen these. A lot of us have used them everywhere from, I don't know, church to doing news interviews or whatever. Very common. And then, of course, on the opposite end, we just have one of our plugs. Now, this one happens to come, this is a Rode lav mic, and it comes as part of something called the mobile interview kit. So this comes with it along with two of the lav microphones. And then you can see on the bottom, it actually has two ports, so I can plug in two of these lav microphones. Actually, I know it has a third port. The one in the middle is for what's called a monitor. So that means you could plug in kind of old school headphones. You could do, what are they called? AirPods, or, you know, the cheap ones that come with every iPhone. And then you can actually hear what's coming through here from both to make sure your sound is good. So that's called monitoring. Otherwise, you can also make it work with just one. But if you want to plug in two so that you can have two people mic'd up at the same time, you can do this. And then, of course, on the end here, because this one's made for iOS, that is another lightning port. So that just plugs into the bottom of our phone, and boom, we're off and running. Now, Rode does have an app, and it's called the Reporter app. It's free. You can download it and install it, and it allows you to configure some of the settings so that you can change the sound a little bit. And I like using it for tests. So Rode Mobile Interview Kit will include a link to that one. Of course, the difference between these two options, number one, this will probably typically give you a better sound because it's very close to your mouth. And one of the first rules in microphones is the closer you can get it to your face, the better this sound is going to be. The downside, of course, is that if you have one of those plugged into your camera, or even two of those plugged into your camera, whoever's wearing them will be the only people you're going to hear. Something like this shotgun can be very versatile if you want to be walking around an office, maybe you're interviewing people, giving a tour of your factory or your production line, and being able to simply walk up to random people with your camera and have this pointed at them so that you can hear what they're saying. Maybe you're sitting in a classroom and you can just point it around at different students, or you're in a focus group environment and you want to be able to point it that way. Total versatility. It's point, and that's what you're going to pick up. But of course, because it's farther away from each one of your subjects, the sound will be a little more challenging. I think the important thing is to just note that you're still going to get 5 to 10 times better sound using this than what's built into a smartphone. So this one's pretty key in that scenario. Now, another thing I really like about this microphone is its size. It's small, so it's not going to be top quality, but it's going to be a whole lot better than what's built in. But it really doesn't take up much space. You could throw it in a pocket if you need to. It's easy to fit into a bag if you want to travel with it. Now, if you really want to have, say, maybe a more permanent setup in an office space, maybe you're always going to be recording yourself at your desk, or you want to have it in a conference room, or you have a dedicated studio. Any scenario like that, I wouldn't mind if you had one of these higher-end Rode microphones. This one is called the VideoMic Pro, I believe. We'll have a link to this one. And this one's going to run you maybe $200-300. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it really will produce noticeably better sound than the smaller one. And for obvious reasons. I mean, you've got a much better microphone that's built in here, so obviously it's going to be better quality. This one also gives you the ability to change a few settings on the back, so kind of depending on how far away from the microphone you are or what you have it plugged into, you can change some settings to affect the audio quality. That said, they're basic enough that it's still easy for most people to figure out how to use. And this one, once again, has our shoe mount on the bottom, so even though it's probably larger than most of your smartphones, it will work just as easily when you put it into the top of your tripod cold shoe mount. This microphone also happens to be the exact one that many top YouTubers use on their DSLR cameras, so you know it's good. Now, in our previous episode, I did show you the GoPro mod that we have here, the media, so it's got the microphone built in. I'm not gonna go through that again, but just know that's another option you have. Is if you go the GoPro route, you can just have that piece built in, and then everything else that I'm showing you today becomes a bit of a non-issue unless you're looking for some special situations where, again, maybe you wanna have a lav mic plugged in there, which you can absolutely do. All right, outside of that GoPro built-in mic, I think my absolute go-to, my absolute favorite right now, I think most people's favorite right now, based on what you see online, is the Rode Wireless Go. And I've got my microphone plugged into here right now, but that's not actually part of the mic. What you're looking at right here in my hand is the actual microphone. It's the transmitter. In fact, it has these little tiny dead cats. I guess they're like little dead kittens. And these plug into the top, but the microphone that's built in is right here in the center. And you can actually use this. You could talk into it like it's a microphone. You can clip it to your shirt. You could put it in a pocket. It's super versatile. I still plug the lav mic in there just because I don't want to hold this. And with my t-shirt, I don't really have a good place to clip it. But as a general rule, you would just have this device and then its exact matching counterpart, which is plugged into the camera right now. They look virtually identical. One's the transmitter, one's the receiver. And what's really cool about these is that they are wireless. So that makes it really handy. I could be 30 feet away from my iPhone and still be picking up perfect audio. That's really cool in certain situations where maybe you want to be giving a tour of your factory or of your office. And maybe as you're walking in front of the camera, you're not always going to have your face pointed at the microphone, at the camera. So anytime you turn around, you're going to notice a complete drop in audio quality. But with this and having this clipped on or holding it, it doesn't matter what direction you're facing because you've got it with you and you've got that luxury of the wireless distance. The other very cool thing about these is they have the clips built in on both. So the one that I have plugged into the phone right now is actually clipped into that cold shoe mount. You just open the clip and then they've designed it so it's exactly the size of a shoe and it just slides right in there. So it makes it really handy to just plug that in up at the top and then run your wire right into your camera. So whatever kind of adapter you need to be able to plug that into anything from a DSLR to a smartphone. And like I said, even into a GoPro, if that's what ends up making the most sense for you. So 9 times out of 10, this is what I'm gonna recommend for business vlogging. Just because it's very versatile, the battery life is fantastic, the sound quality is phenomenal, and it's really not expensive. I believe these are $199 and you can get them on Amazon, so we'll be sure to include a link. But we'll talk more about the overall setup and how this might affect your decision on the exact setup that you want to go with for your business vlogging as we continue to work through this series on simple business vlogging. So I'll see you in the next episode.